With a song in my heart, the story of men and their music, of composers who really had a song in their heart.
Never live without you, oh, you beautiful doll, you great big beautiful doll. If you ever leave me, how my heart would ache. Like to hug you, but I fear you break. Oh, 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 you beautiful doll.
Yes, sir. And that song was one of the big hits of the ragtime era, one of the very biggest. It epitomizes the years around 1910, when every song hit was termed a rag, when young fellows like Irving Berlin were teaching music lovers the art of syncopation. Berlin had some big hits like Alexander's Ragtime Band and Everybody's Doing It to offer. Another young composer, Nat D. Ayer, gave the world Oh, You Beautiful Doll. Nat Ayer was originally a veritable pianist, but after he landed that hit, it was songwriting for him, a decision he never regretted, nor have music lovers to this very day. I first heard of Nat when he was acting as accompanist to vaudeville star Lee White. After a show one night in Lee's dressing room, she said to him,
Nat, ever since you wrote your big hit, our act seems to be going better and better. We even stopped the show tonight.
Guess we must be good, Lee.
Now, say. And we're going places, too. Here, look at this cable.
Oh, boy. An offer to play in London. Nice money, too. Well, what are you going to do about it, Lee?
Well, if my pianist will come to London with me, I'm going to accept. What do you say, Nat?
I'll tell you in 2 words. Let's go.
And that's how it came about that America lost one of her most promising songwriters. Because when he reached England, he fell in love with the place and practically spent the remainder of his days there, turning out hit after hit for London theaters. One such hit was You're My Baby. By the way, note the melody of the verse. Nat borrowed that old jingle Frankie and Johnny pretty well note for note, but it was a great big hit just the same.
Something the matter with me, dear, something I've tried to explain. If you're away for a week or a day, round my heart I feel a pain. I don't know why, all I do is sigh. But dearie, when you are near me, I'm happy as I can be. Let's cuddle there in the big cozy chair like a couple of birds in a tree. Oh, dearie, you know I love you so. You're my baby, you're a wonderful child. I like to have you round to make a fuss over me. I like to bounce you up and down upon my knee, for you're my baby. You certainly were made for me. If you should go away, I'd get right down and pray that you'd come back to me. Because I love you so. Oh, you're my baby. You're my baby. You're a wonderful child. I like to have you round to make a fuss over me. I like to bounce you up and down upon my knee, for you're my baby. You certainly were made for me. If you should go away, I'd get right down and pray that you'd come back to
Please come back to me.
Because I love you so, for you're my baby.
When Lee White and Nat Ayer played the English music halls, they repeated their success of American vaudeville. Talking over their act one day, Lee mentioned...
Nat, I feel that our act's missing out in one spot.
Oh, how come, Lee?
We need a song with a change in rhythm. A point number. Or something snappy and smart, but with a punch just the same.
Okay, if you say so, Lee. I'll see if I can do anything about it.
He did all right. He wrote one of the cutest pops of the day for us. Baby, If You Talk in Your Sleep.
I can see that you are married, and you know I'm married too. Nobody knows that you know me, and nobody knows that I know you. And if you care to, we'll have luncheon every day here just the same. But sweetheart, if you talk in your sleep, don't mention my name. I can see that you are married, and you know I'm married too. And nobody knows that you know me, and nobody knows that I know you. And if you care to, we'll have a luncheon every day here just the same. But sweetheart, if you talk in your sleep, don't mention my name.
Theatrical producers and music publishers alike were now seeking Nat Ayer's services. He was established as one of England's best tunesters. Further, he was in the money. In a London publisher's office one day...
Nat, I sent for you urgently because that new show at the Adelphi needs another number. The producer says it must be a Nat Ayer number.
Very nice of him. Who's going to sing it?
The boy who made Gilbert the Filbert famous.
Oh, the juvenile, yeah. He's a mighty good performer.
I agree. Well, you've got to find another song for him. But one thing, it must be about girls. Women just love that boy.
Right, I'll go to it.
The result was Widows Are Wonderful, a typical Ayer hit.
Widows are wonderful, you must admit they're wise. They've got the eyes, always hand you some surprise. Widows are marvelous, they've got that kind of way. If they're short or tall, the men are bound to fall. That's all. Widows are dangerous, they've had experience. They're just like many turtle doves. Single girls are much too tame, but a merry little widow, oh, she knows the game. She's wonderful, she's beautiful, it's the wonderful way she loves. Widows are dangerous, they've had experience. They're just so many turtle doves. Now single girls are much too tame, but a merry little widow, she knows the game. She's wonderful, she's marvelous, it's the wonderful way she loves.
Yes, London loved that song. And looking back, it fits the London of 1914 like a glove. It was the period of London's brightest years, times of happiness and gaiety, an age when there was plenty of everything for everyone. People really lived in those days. But that was before the month of August 1914, before World War I commenced. Shortly after this, Ayer turned in another song to his publishers.
Yes, I like the song, Nat. It's got a great melody, but...
But what?
Well, I'm wondering if it'd go at the present moment. The war has brought a flood of patriotic songs along.
Yeah, and how many of them are selling?
Oh, very few, I admit.
Well, I figure there's been only one. Ivor Novello's Keep the Home Fires Burning. The rest of the songs the boys are singing have nothing to do with the war. Take Tipperary, for instance, or Long, Long Trail. Do they pertain to the war?
Decidedly not.
Well, that's why I think the public will go for my new song. They don't want flag wavers. They want love, tenderness, hope.
Perhaps you're right, Ned. You generally are. We'll publish a song.
And that's how another Nat Ayer hit arrived. It was Let the Great Big World Keep Turning, one of the biggest sellers of the day.
Let the great big world keep turning. Never mind if I've got you, for I only know that I want you so, and there's no one else will do. You have simply set me yearning, and forever I'll be true. Let the great big world keep on turning round. Now I've found someone like you. Let the great big world keep turning. Never mind if I love you, for I only know that I want you so, and there's no one else will do. You have simply set me yearning, and forever I'll be true. Let the great big world keep on turning round. Now I've found someone like you.
Around the year 1916, when things were looking mighty grim, two of London's greatest showmen, Edwin Lorillard and George Grossmith, were having a chat. Those of you who know your theatre will undoubtedly recall the name of Grossmith. George himself was one of the brightest and most talented performers on the English stage, and created innumerable roles in the musical comedy era of Paul Rubens and Lionel Monckton. His father before him was equally well known, and the theatre was in their very blood. As the Hammerstein family were in New York, so were the Grossmiths in London. On this particular morning, in Grossmith's office, his fellow producer and business partner, Edwin Lorillard, had this to say.
Well, what's our next production to be, George?
Well, I've got an idea, Edwin. In fact, I've been toying with it for some time. But it'll cost an awful lot of cash to produce it.
Who have you got in mind for it, George?
Well, that's the trouble. I've built the idea around three of the most expensive artists in London. But unfortunately, they're the only people who could play it and get away with it.
Well, come on, tell us the worst, George. Who are they?
Well, sit tight then. George Roby, Alfred Lester, and Violet Lorraine.
Phew. You're certainly hitching our wagon to the stars. But if we must have them, well, we must have them.
You're for it, Edwin?
Yes, George, I am.
Right. Then we're going to give London and the boys home on leave the brightest and best show of the war. It'll be terrific.
Well, let's go to it. By the way, who's to write the music?
Well, there's only one man for that job.
And that is?
Nat Ayer, with Clifford Gray to do the lyrics.
And that's how London's gayest escapist fair of the war was conceived. For from this conversation, the Bing Boys Are Here arrived. And on that opening night at the old Alhambra, the world heard Violet Lorraine and George Roby introduce one of the greatest song hits of the war. Nat Ayer's If You Were the Only Girl in the World.
If you were the only girl in the world,
And you were the only boy.
nothing else would matter in this world today. We could go on loving in the same old way. A garden of Eden just made for two,
with nothing to mar our joy.
I would say such wonderful things to you.
There would be such wonderful things to do.
If you were the only girl in the world, and I were the only boy.
Yes, that song was a smash in the fullest sense of the word. It re-echoed throughout the world and proved an enormous seller. It's still with us, too, and has become what Tin Pan Alley refers to as a standard, an all-time seller. It was written in 1916. Some 11 years later, it was revived again by Rudy Vallee, the first of the crooners. Yes, Rudy came before Bing Crosby, Gene Austen and Company, and undoubtedly was the first artist to create what is now known as crooning. In New York one day, Vallee said to a New York publisher,
I was looking at that old song of yours, If You Were the Only Girl in the World.
Well, what about it, Rudy?
I'd like to revive it. I think the American public would go for it.
It's a great number.
You're not telling me anything. But I'd like to change the tempo a little.
And what would you do to it, Rudy?
Well, why, I'd like to put it into waltz time.
Well, it's up to you. You feel that way about it, go right ahead.
and Vallee did. And in 1927, The Only Girl once again topped the hit parades. Incidentally, those were the times before stage microphones. When crooner Vallee sang in a large theater, he used a megaphone, and surprisingly effective it was, too. Vallee did it something like this.
If you were the only girl in the world, and I were the only boy, nothing else would matter in this world today. We could go on loving in the same old way. A garden of Eden just made for two, with nothing to mar our joy. I could say such wonderful things to you. There would be such wonderful things to do if you were the only girl in the world, and I were the only boy.
The Bing Boys had a whole bunch of hits in it. In fact, it was one of the most melodious scores ever, and proved a wonderful money spinner for its producers and composer. It was to prove the highlight of Nat Ayer's career, and although he wrote many shows after this, he never eclipsed this effort. It seemed to possess a magnetism for the weary, war-worn troops, and every number was carried back to the battlefields of France, and later to Germany. Another big hit from the show was that crazy little song, Another Little Drink Won't Do Us Any Harm.
Oh, there was a little hen, and she had a wooden leg, the best little hen that ever laid an egg, and she laid more eggs than any hen on the farm, and another little drink wouldn't do us any harm. Another little drink, another little drink, another little drink wouldn't do us any harm. Another little drink, another little drink, another little drink wouldn't do us any harm.
Oh,
I had a little duck and a lot of green peas, a quart of ginger beer and some Stilton cheese. Then we felt such a pain in the shade of the palm, and another little drink wouldn't do us any harm.
Another little drink, another little drink, another little drink wouldn't do us any harm. Another little drink, another little drink, another little drink wouldn't do us any harm.
Oh, there was a little girl
Who went into review,
couldn't act a bit,
but a lady through and through.
cause to everyone around.
She would show good form.
And another little drink wouldn't do us any harm. Another little drink, another little drink, another little drink wouldn't do us any harm. Another little drink, another little drink, another little drink wouldn't do us any harm. Another little drink, another little drink, another little drink wouldn't do us any harm. Another little drink, another little drink, another little drink wouldn't do us any harm.
I'll bet hearing that song again must have taken many of you old-timers back through the years. But that's one of the charms of popular music. Old-time melodies invariably seem to associate themselves with some memory of the past. And it's worth remembering it's a debt we owe to the writers of our popular melodies. And so we reach the conclusion of the Nat Ayer story, a songwriter who, although he commenced way back in the ragtime era, made the grade in a big way and left us a legacy of hits that will remain with us as long as music is played. And for our finale, one of his most unusual and original melodies that could easily stand a revival. I Love That Dear Old Home of Mine.
I love the hustle and the tussle and the bustle, and I love to hear the rustle of a gown. I love the ladies and I'm always playing Hades. I'm gonna take a shine, I'm gonna buy a mine. The sky's the limit and we'll dream it to the minute. For I tell you on the level that will raise the very level. I love the places where we see the pretty places where there's music and laughter and song. We won't go home from morning till the break of day is dawning, so come on along, come on along. Dilly or a pretty little filly walking up from Piccadilly makes me absolutely silly. I forget about the dear old home of mine.
I love that dear
I love the city where the girls are very pretty, and I do love the life in the town.
I love that city.
I love the hustle and the tussle and the bustle, and I love to hear the rustle of my gown.
I seem to hear
I love the ladies and I'm always playing Hades. I'm gonna make a shine, I'm gonna buy 'em wine. The sky's the limit and we'll dream it to the minute. For I tell you on the level that will raise the very level. I know the places where we see the pretty places where there's music and laughter and song.
and where the
We
sun
won't go home from morning till the break of day is dawning, so come on along, come on along.
I love the
Tilly or a Billy or a pretty little filly walking on the Piccadilly makes me absolutely silly. I forget about that dear old home.
And so we reach the end of still another songwriter's life story. Another man who had a song in his heart. The artists who recreated the incidents of his time were Douglas Kelly, Richard Davies, Don Moore, Bernice Lum, Max Blake, Eula Parker and her Parkettes, and Horry Dargy and his quartet. Your narrator was John Morgan. Orchestra and chorus were under the baton of William Flynn. With a Song in My Heart was produced by Alfred Potter and scripted and directed by Jack O'Hagan.